we kindly invite Mr. Dube to come through and give us an opening prayer. A seasoned farmer, a seasoned researcher, all the way from Chirezi.
Thank you so much, madam. The guy tinamati. Baba tinokutendai neurongwa hwakadai. Tinokutendai Jesu makazviita henyu. Pazvakarongwa baba makanga muripo. Tiri pano nhasi makoti muri pakati pedu. Tinokutendai baba norukudzo rwese rwaitwa. Baba tinokutendai baba tinonyengeterera baba president vedu. Tivaitwe zvakanaka neutungamiriri hwese hwawakasarudza. Tinokutendai baba nemakenguva ino. Baba tinokutendai baba nemakoti mune hanya nenyika yedu. Baba tinokutendai nebasa rose riri kubatwa pano. Kudzwai Jehovha nokuti makatendeka. Baba ivai nesu nevari kufamba vari kuya kuno. Ngavatirwe nyasha mumugwagwa. Baba tinokutendai makoti makanaka. Ndanyengere kutenda mangwanani muzita raJesu Kristu rinogara. Amen. Mazviita madam.
Tinotenda Mr. Dube. Mama piwa heti here. Mapa muna wakanaka ndoda kukupai heti. Aiwa zvakanaka. We may take our seats. Tinokugamuchirai mose nemufaro wakanyanya kumutambo wanhasi annual field day yatinoita seSeedco gore rega rega tichipemberera nekukuratidzai kunaka kwakaita mbeu dzedu. Chakanaka mukaka urungwi munyu 9. Saka zuva ranhasi toda kuti muzozvionera mega pamino sefodya kuti kuSeedco kune mbeu dzakanaka. Kana ndiri murimi ndinofanira kurima neSeedco kuti ndirime zvine pundutso. Iye zvino tichada kuti tipinde panguva yema brief introductions achange tichipiwa. Introductions edu anenge asina kureba nekuti munhu wese ari pano akatikoshera zvikuru kunyanya varimi vese vauya kuzobata nesu pazuva ranhasi. Pazuva ranhasi ini events director wenyu ED wanhasi ndinonzi Wendi Madzura, ndiri murimisi weSeedco. Ndichange ndichibata naLebrin Svanda ari pano uyu.
Siyaliyamukela valimi tinogamuchirai kuno siti siyaliyamukela kuhlelo lethu lanamhlanje ole field day yethu. Ama-introductions ethu esesingena kuwo sizawancediswa ngu-commercial director wethu ukhanya sabamba nje kulutshwane kodwa uyafika nje kathesi. Sisithi uhlelo lwanamhla kuqakatheka kwalo ngokuthi nxa sikhangela phela ukulima esesikwenza kulezi nsuku umkhathi ususiya kutshintsha kunze kwakuthi kuchishanduka. Saka tinotarisira kuti varimi pavari kubva kunzvimbo dzakasiyana-siyana ngokuda kutarisa kakuti mbeu dziripo nhasi kunoku dzinyowani dzacho ndedzipi, dzinoita kwenyu ndedzipi. Pamwe maifarira chibage kunyanya umoona kuno kwane sunflower rakanaka, kwane sorghum yakanaka. Ini handisa ndaona kumunda kwakaita sei, asi ndofunga tamira kuti mutange kukuona.
Ichokwadi. Iye zvino takupinda panguva yedu yema brief introductions. Nditenderei kuti ndingokuratidzaiwo kuti kuSeedco timu ratinaro pano kuSeedco nderipi. Ndichakumbira mabreeders edu vanova ivo vauchiki vembeu yatinenge tichiona pazuva ranhasi yakanaka kudai. Mabreeders edu kuti munongosimuka mongoti samu muri pamuri kuti varimi vedu vakuonei. Mabreeders edu muri kuvaona kuwanda vana chiremba vembesa. KuSeedco tinana chiremba vembesa vanoona nezvekuti mbeu yauchikwa sei, kwadziya koinoshinga sei, kogowo rinobuda sei, ndivo vanoona nezvekuuchikwa kwembeu kuSeedco. Ivava mavaona neuwandu hwavo nekuchena kwavakaita. Handiti muchanzwa kubva kwavari kana tasvika kumunda. Tinotenda mabreeders edu, garai zvenyu. Tine zvakare timu yevarimisi madhumeni eSeedco anobata ari kumaprovinsi akasiyana-siyana. Maagronomists edu vanoshanda nemi zuva nezuva panyaya dzekuti munzwisise mbeu dzatinadzo. Ndichakumbira kuti musimuke. Sales team yedu, maagronomists edu, muri kuvaona kamadhumeni. Vari kuratidza kuti vanoswera muzuva. Handiti varipo vese madhumeni edu. Tinodada navo nekuti ndo amunoswera navo muchikurukura navo nguva nenguva. Garai zvenyu. Ndichakumbira Madam Felicitas kuti vangoti introducirawo vekuSeedco vatinavo vari pamberi pedu. Ndisati ndapinda ipapo ndichakumbira kuti zvakare pasales team yedu iyoyo pasimukawo zvakare sales team yedu inoshanda maagronomists edu eSeedco vegetables. Sezvamunoziva kuti kuSeedco tinoti sadza nemuriwo. Ndinokumbirawo kuti vasimuke tivaone tivazive. Mukuru wavo ari mberi, Beauty Magia muri kumuona. Vamwe vacho vakatokumirira uko kumunda. kumbeu dzemuriwo. Ndinotenda.
Maita henyu mangwanani varimi tinokugamuchirai nemufaro pano paSeedco. Ndatumwa kuti ndiintroducewo, ndichangointrodusa veSeedco ndodzosa imi mozoenda muchikwira nemakata acho. Mangwanani ano kuSeedco tine vakuru vedu veresearch station ino pamuri pano paRatri Arnold Research Station. Vagova zvakare ndivo mukuru weSeedco Research in Africa vanoitwa Dr. Mabuyaye. Doc sangane nevari.
Thank you. Makadi yenyu varimi.
Zvakare kuno kumberi tine mukuru weSeedco Limited varivo managing director veSeedco muno muZimbabwe. Ndicharegera kuvasimudza nokuti ndofunga vachazosimuka manje manje, asi vanoitwa ivo Mr. Terence Chimanyi.
Ndinotenda zvikuru madam. Iye zvino izvi tichakumbira kuti tipiwe maintroductions kubva kuministry, kuti Ministry of Agriculture yakapuwa mubayiro vhiki rapfuura. Maizviziva here? Muri kuzviziva here? Ngatifarirei ministry yedu. Aiwa, vanotidadisa, vanotimiririra nemazvo zvekuti zvakabva zvaonekwa kuti mumaministry ese muno muZimbabwe ndo vari kumhanya nechimuti, ndo vari kurira nai. Aiwa, tinozvitenda. Regai tipiwe maintroductions edu.
Ndichiti pamusoro mose varimi, ndinofara zvikuru tichisangana pazuva guru ranhasi. Inini ndakamira pano pamberi penyu, ndinonzi Martin Munyati, ndiri director Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development. Ndiri director weSoil Conservation and Post Harvest. Ndonga kuuya kwandaita ndauya nemango madirector angu. Ndina director weCrops Research vachingwara, ndichaona kuti vaenda kupi. Vari ndauyawo zvakare ndina director weAgricultural Engineering and Mechanization muministry zvakare, engineer Kuni. Handizivi kuti vaenda kupi. Ndo vari kuuya vari Kuni. Okay. Ndofunga ndingangoti ndiyo timu yangu yandauya nayo kuministry.
Aiwa, zvakanaka. Vamwe vachona vachazointroducwa nekufamba kwenguva. Tinotenda zvikuru. Tinewo zvakare mapartners edu kuSeedco. Tinoziva kuti musha kuti umire hunge hwakanyatsokukomberedzwa nemasawira ekushanda nawo anenge achiita kuti basa riende mberi. Tine makey stakeholders atinoshanda nawo akasiyana siyana ari pano. Hatichadonongodzi kuti tina ningi nekuti veshe vakatikoshera ende muchavaona vakaisa maexhibits avo pano, asi tichada kucherechedza zvakasarudzikawo huvepo hwaGMB ECOO Mr. Takaendesa, mukakwanisawo kusimuka muonekwe nevarimi. Tinotenda. Zvinoratidza kuti dura rembeu riri pano, uyezve vachabva vadaira yese mibvunzo yamunayo. Tine zvakare vekuAFC Holdings vamacheka vari pano. CEO vekuAFC Holdings. Mari iri pano, muri kuzvionawo. Munhu wese vambondizevezera vamacheka vakati munhu wese achawana $5 yake yekuenda nayo. Tinotenda zvikuru. Tinoda kucherechedzawo zvakare veArt Farm vari pano. Ndo kunoitwa ongororo yese yekuti mbeu dzinodini. Vamutemeri muri kuvaona here? Mondoro yekuziva kuti mbeu dzinofamba sei vari pano kuzuva ranhasi. Tinozvitenda izvozvo. Vamwe vese vandisina kudoma makatikoshera zvese zvokuti muri pano. Tinozvitenda zvikuru. Iye zvino taakupinda pachikamu chinotevera cheprogramu yedu tichinanga kuti tiende kumunda. At this moment in time, allow me to invite our Managing Director to come through and give us his opening remarks.
Allow me to welcome our guest of honor, Dr. Basera, the best performing permanent secretary. I'm going to put emphasis, Dr. Basera, on your performance. It is both a privilege and honor to actually know that Dr. Basera vakabva muSeedco. Vamwe vese mungaite ropa rered asi raDr. Basera neredu nderegreen, and he remains and continues to be one of us. I welcome you, Doctor. Allow me to also welcome Mr. Macheka, the Group CEO of AFC, Mr. Takaendes, the Chief Operating Officer of GMB, and the rest of the invited guests, including the directors from the ministry. It is both a privilege and honor to welcome you all to Rattray Arnold Research Station, a day we set aside in our annual calendar to showcase some of our products from our research and development. I would like to welcome you all, especially our farmers, Magati Koshera, as Wendy always says, "Hapana kwatinokwanisa kuenda tisina imi varimi." Just a brief history of Seedco. Seedco has been in business for the past 83 years and continues to grow. As of today, we can count how many countries we are in, but it is here with Seedco yakatanga muno. As of today, I think we are now sitting in 17 countries physically, owing to the wide adaptability and acceptability of all our varieties. In the same vein, it will be amiss of me to not applaud imivari mivedu, because for us to be able to be where we are, ndimi magatanga kurima varieties edu. Allow me in the same vein kuti ndirambe ndichikuchidzirai kuti ticharamba tichigadzira mbeu yamunofarira, mbeu inokupai goho rakakura, and continue to offer you agricultural farm agronomy support. What we are going to continue doing as a business, working with government, is to ensure that Zimbabwe becomes food self-sufficient. As you all know, this year, I think we have grown more than any other year, coupled by the climate-smart varieties, agauchikwa pano. May I take this opportunity to also compliment Dr. Basera and the whole government of Zimbabwe for coming up with various grain import substitution programs, Presidential Input Program, the National Enhanced Agricultural Productivity Scheme. The seed industry solidifies and aligns itself to government, especially the agriculture initiatives that are aimed at making this industry the main driver of our economy in Zimbabwe. I am pleased to say that Seedco Limited carried out their responsibilities as per your office instructions, Permanent Secretary, to entirely ensure that we continue to have homegrown seeds that are produced here. And as our commitment to you, we will continue doing that going forward. The interaction such as one we are going to have today is useful because it creates an idea for all our farmers to see where we are going as a business and as a country. Seedco cannot exist in a vacuum. It exists working with government, and it exists working with its farmers. Allow me, Permanent Secretary, to talk about the investment that we've made here at Rattray Arnold. We have a new laboratory equipment which has become worthwhile for us, which has drastically cut the time in which we're able to respond to and offer market new products. We have continued to release new products. Last year we released 4. I know Dr. Mabuya is keen to continue releasing new products. Toto Zumbeta Tishaisa ma break. Nekuti mkomano wacho anoda kuchika zvisingaite. As you may have learned from our team of researchers, our seed varieties that we are offering you couple high yielding ability with other complementary agronomic traits like good standability, harvestability, disease and heat tolerance, fast dry down rate, water use efficiency, fertilizer use efficiency, among other traits. The combination of high yields and good complementary traits of our seed cultivars is a rare feat to have in any agricultural system and should be duly taken as an advantage to the farmer and to the nation. What is making this work a little more exciting is the fact that we've also been able to come up with a couple more products in the ultra early maturing ranges that are well suited to the growing conditions of most of our smallholder farmers, and in particular the much drier regions of the country that are now able to grow maize to feed themselves, as well as making some contribution to national grain stocks. While I have made mention of maize, you have also borne testimony to a range of other projects across various other crops, including small grains, wheat, and soybeans. As all this is happening, PS, allow me to take this opportunity to implore and reiterate the message that the foundation of our work is a deep-rooted belief in the dignity of a Zimbabwean farmer, and also the role that Seedco plays in facilitating effective economic growth. Seedco continues to be your company, continues to be the seed of choice for Zimbabwe. In conclusion, PS, allow me to once again thank you for the support that you continue to give to Seedco, and to also thank our farmers for continuously choosing our products for their performance and huge benefits associated with them. To our farmers who are here today, as you leave this research station, please go back to your homes, to your fields, and share what you have learned today with some of your neighbors. Avo vasingade kudyara Seedco. Munhu anofanirwa kutongoziva kuti kana asiri kudyara Seedco pane problem. But imi sezvamuchaona nhasi ndimuchamuudza kuti zvandakaona kuRattray Arnold unofanirwa kudyara Seedco. So the message that I'm saying to you, we are going to continue supporting you. We are going to continue helping and ensure that Zimbabwe retains and takes its position as the bread basket of Africa. Ndatenda hangu. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's our MD, our Managing Director, for that rich speech, pledging that we are going to continue on our thrust to end hunger, zero poverty, and zero hunger in Zimbabwe, according to the SDGs. Thank you so much, sir. At this point, I'm going to invite you back to the podium, sir, so that you can introduce our guest of honor, and he can give his remarks.
Thank you, Investments Director. Varimi, please stand up and allow me to introduce to you our guest of honor, Dr. John Basera, as he takes to the podium.
So we may be seated, but as we sit, let's still clap hands. And so firstly, I would like to congratulate all of you, the whole sector, for the achievements recorded so far since the promulgation and the operationalization of the Agriculture Recovery and Growth Plan. So all these feats which we are now witnessing today, all the records which we are now breaking, are actually emanating as enshrined in the Agriculture Recovery and Growth Plan. So allow me to acknowledge and to recognize all the senior government officials who are here. I saw Director Mnyati, Director Mechanization, and Director Rukuni, and other colleagues from the ministry. I saw one director from Research and Development. Thank you very much for accompanying me to this momentous occasion on the agriculture calendar, on the Seedco calendar. Allow me to also recognize our host, Mr. Chimanya, who is the Managing Director for Seedco Limited. And allow me to acknowledge the presence of our global head, our technical host for today, Dr. Gordon Mabuyaye, who is the Seedco Global Head of Research and Development and Innovation and Technology. Lokadia Ganjani, the Commercial Director, thank you very much. We acknowledge you. And then Seedco, Prime Seedco Management, and of course led by Madame Felicitas Ndawi, Kurajena. Thank you so much. We acknowledge you. Allow me, in the interest of time, to acknowledge the Seedco management, the staff, and the board. Heads of parastatals who are here, I saw Vama Cheka, who is the Group CEO for the Agricultural Finance Corporation, a holdings company, and Mr. Takayendesa, who is the COO, Chief Operations Officer, GMB, the Grain Marketing Board, and other parastatals who are here, who have accompanied us here, and I call them Team Success. I think they do deserve another round of applause, actually. But most importantly, actually, allow me to acknowledge all the farmer associations and the farmers who are here. These are the drivers for agriculture transformation, and I think they do deserve, and you do deserve to give yourselves another big round of applause for the achievements which you have recorded so far on our journey to green tick the agricultural revolution number 3, and on our journey to journey towards a vision 2030 agriculturally. You have done incredibly well. And I promise you how lucky I am, and I always ask myself that how lucky I am to have this opportunity and this golden opportunity to work with all of you guys, to work with all of the colleagues, the stakeholders, the private sector players, the farmers especially, the development world, all my colleagues at ministry, other MDAs, that is ministries, departments and agencies in the central government, and everybody. It has just been an incredible journey, a journey of agricultural transformation, a journey of journeying towards Vision 2030 objectives and imperatives agriculturally. And I think we are very lucky. Myself and the minister, we are very lucky to have collected the accolades on your behalf and indeed on behalf of the sector. Well done to you guys, and congratulations once again. So let me start. Ndofunga takuzoti season yema slogans. So let me start nema slogan. Pamberine kurima. Pamberine kurima. Pamberine kurima. Pamberine kubudirira. Pamberine budirire kumarua. Pasi de mandu. So mandu ya linzara. Ndo mandu huru yatuda kudila nayo. Yataunganira mzuara nasi, and I would like to thank everybody for coming and for attending this momentous occasion. Then another slogan is Nyika inovakwa deve nevayo. So ndichati nyika imoti inovakwa deve nevayo. Ndoti zvakare nyika inorimwa neve nevayo. Nyika inogutswa neve nevayo. Those are the 3 lines for today. Nyika. 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 Thank you very much. So it is with a great pleasure that I join you today for this momentous occasion on the Seedco calendar. And I think indeed on the agriculture calendar, this is a momentous occasion. This is a very important occasion. It's a very important event where Seedco showcases its technologies, its efforts and thrust in terms of research and development and innovation, in terms of supporting government's thrust for import substitution, in terms of supporting government's thrust in terms of our journey towards a Vision 2030, and in our case today, agriculturally. So colleagues, we cannot obviously overemphasize the importance of research and development and innovation and technology development in our quest to obviously transition and to transform the agricultural sector. We believe that it's indeed the epicenter for agriculture transformation. It's indeed the epicenter. It was the epicenter for attainment of all the feats which were recorded in the Agriculture Revolution number 1, Agriculture Revolution number 2, and indeed now in the Agriculture Revolution number 3. So Agriculture Revolution number 3, and in fact the agriculture transformation, which we all seek, is now, and I can safely say, as your Chief Accounting Officer in the sector, is upon us. And this deserves a round of applause because you have done it, colleagues. So agricultural research is at the epicenter of all that. And obviously, and once again, we cannot overemphasize the importance of the agricultural sector in our overall economy, be it in terms of the growth of the rural economy, be it in terms of contribution to employment creation, both directly and indirectly, upstream and downstream, be it in terms of its contribution to industrialization, because obviously the industry do require about 65% of its raw materials from the agriculture sector. So, and again, we cannot talk industrialization 4.0 without talking agriculture transformation and agriculture revolution. So the two are basically and generally synonymous. So agriculture is so important. And most importantly, on our journey towards Vision 2030, agriculture is indeed 2 to 4 times more powerful at reducing poverty, ending hunger, empowering communities more than any other sector. It's a very, very important sector, and I'm happy that I'm having an interaction here with the agents for agriculture transformation, who are indeed our farmers. But again, colleagues, we believe that agricultural research will present us a chance to leapfrog. And of course, like I said, it will present us a chance to get to the objectives and the imperatives of Vision 2030 even much faster and much quicker than 2030. We know that if we get our agriculture right, then we'll be able to get to the objectives of Vision 2030 even much earlier than 2030 itself. We are very, very positive of that, and more so if we can do right in terms of our agricultural research, because it gives us that chance to leapfrog and that chance to transform our agriculture more quicker and to achieve the objectives of Vision 2030, the objectives of NDS 1, the objectives of NDS 2, and also the objectives of Africa Agenda 2063, the objectives of CADIP, Malabo, Maputo declarations, and so forth, and even more so the Sustainable Development Goals. But all the same, agriculture transformation, and at the epicenter of that, the lifeblood of agriculture transformation is obviously transforming the food security sector. We need food security. We need food security as an economy. We need food sovereignty. We need food import substitution. We need food self-sufficiency, and we need that at any cost and at all costs. But we know that for us, and food security is equal to seed security. We start by seed security first so that we achieve a food security, and that is the reason why we are here today, because this is an important occasion and an important event where we witness seed research, especially maize seed research, traditional grain seed research, and also horticultural seed research, among other sub-sectors which are on the fore and on discussion today. So food security begins with seed security, certainly, and we need to get our seed security right. So colleagues, so far I think we have recorded quite a number of successes so far since the promulgation and the operationalization of the Agriculture Recovery and Growth Plan. And you can imagine we are now food secure. We can safely say that we are now food secure, but with a slant towards a food self-sufficiency. You can still achieve your food security, but by importing. But we don't want that as an economy. We would want a sustained food self-sufficiency as a journey towards a Vision 2030. Because food self-sufficiency economically, we have several spin-offs across the chain in terms of local employment creation, retention of foreign currency, among other spin-offs which may be recorded out of that thrust of import substitution and food self-sufficiency. So we need food security, yes, but we need food security with a slant towards, which is slanted towards a food self-sufficiency and food sovereignty. So we have recorded quite a number of successes so far since the year 2020, and of course, and in fact, since the ushering in of the new dispensation. You can imagine we are now food secure. We hit a production record, a maize production record of 2.7 million metric tons, and that year and that particular season, it was actually a sharp rise from 907,000 metric tons of maize, which was recorded in 2019-2020 season, and it jumped by 200% to 2.7 million metric tons. That was incredible, colleagues, and it actually deserves a round of applause. Please don't feel shy to clap hands for yourselves. Don't. You can imagine we have recently recorded another big wheat success story in terms of wheat production, obviously. And for the first time in many, many years, and in fact, for the first time since the beginning of wheat production in Zimbabwe, that is in the 1960s, we have made a record of 375,000 metric tons of wheat. So we are flour and wheat self-sufficient, and we had a plan before. In fact, we had a plan that particular season, and our plan was to achieve flour and wheat self-sufficiency at any cost and at all cost, especially in light of the realities of that time, of our times, the COVID-19 realities still hitting us, and also the geopolitical developments in Eastern Europe still hitting us hard, especially across what the so-called 3Fs, in terms of food, fuel, and also fertilizer as well. So we need to be flour self-sufficient. In fact, we need to be food self-sufficient at any cost and at all costs. So we recorded that big feat and that big success, and for the first time since the 1960s, when wheat was first grown in Zimbabwe. And then, of course, in the horticulture space, we are seeing some commendable record-breaking feats again in terms of hectareage under horticulture, in terms of our exports, export earnings in the horticulture subspace. It increased from around $50 million in 2020 now to around almost $70 million, which was quite incredible. And then, of course, in terms of hectareage under horticultural crops, we are seeing a surge by about 5%, almost 5%, 4.6% more specifically, from 118,000 hectares in 2021 to 119,000 hectares in 2022. That was quite some incredible growth, especially for that particular high value chain. So we need, and indeed our theme and creed for this year is going for growth. We need to go for growth. We need to sustain and consolidate on all those feats and records which we have recorded so far, and we can only achieve so and sustainably so if we green tick all the issues to do with research and development, and hence our day and hence our interaction today. So this lays bare, and our interaction today lays bare the importance of research and development in terms of aiding and in terms of consolidating on the feats which we've achieved so far as enshrined in the Agriculture Recovery and Growth Plan. Outside the food production subsector, tobacco production, it's actually on the rise and it's growing quite incredibly well. You can imagine area under tobacco year-on-year growth from 2021 period to 2022 period. So in 2021, it was around 110,000 hectares, and then it surged by about 19% or so to 131,000 hectares in 2022, which was quite, again, incredible. Closer home, soybean, hectareage under soybean, it surged, I think, by about 15 or 16%, if not 17%, from 52,000 to 57,000 hectares in 2022. That is year-on-year from 2021. Which was quite, again, incredible. And then in our thrust as government, and of course together with the private sector, in terms of climate-proofing our agriculture, which is so vulnerable to climate change effects and variabilities, traditional grains production is at the fore. We are promoting, we are on a spree and on a blitz to promote the production of traditional grains so that we ultimately climate-proof the food production subspace, which is so vulnerable to climate change effects and variabilities. And as such, we have put in a number of initiatives and innovations to promote the production of traditional grains across all the farming sectors, that is the smallholder farming sector, as well as the large-scale farming sector. And as such, we have seen a year-on-year growth of 30% from 1 million hectares of traditional grains achieved in 2021 to about 1.3 million hectares achieved in 2022 period, which was quite incredible. So a 30% growth in hectareage is quite incredible, and it deserves a round of applause because you did that. So obviously we have quite a number of interventions, and some of those interventions include, among others, obviously the agroecological tailoring of traditional grains production to say all the regions from region 3 up to region 5B. We now have region 5B. We need to adopt the production of traditional grains. We need to promote the production of traditional grains. We have introduced a grain swap scheme whereby kuya kunona mvura shoma tinoendesa chibage so that vanhu vaikoko vanorima ma-traditional grains, varima ma-traditional grains voendesa ku-GMB yotambira yoswapa for maize. Pakadiya, pakanakisa zvokuti. So we know and we understand as government that people, we do have an obsession for white and for white for sadza. And that obsession, I mean, we can't wish it away overnight. We have to deal with it gradually, but of course, for now, we have this measure of the grain swap scheme, whereby traditional grains are exchanged for maize grain for household consumption. So we are targeting through the GMB, and it's being administered by GMB, and we are targeting to distribute maize grain, especially to those driest parts of the country, that is regions 3 up to region 5B, and we are going to be distributing maize for that particular grain swap scheme to be administered and to be operationalized. Then the other point is our pricing policy for traditional grains. You realize that, for example, sunflower price per ton is around $700, which is pretty much, I think, about 20-25% over and above the price of soybean. So that's our pricing policy. So soybean, for example, which is the conventional strategic crop, but we put an incentive of about 20% to 25% plus and on top of the soybean price so that we get the price for sunflower. This, we are just putting some sweeteners so that we promote the production of sunflower. We need to promote the production of sunflower. Then, of course, the same policy position subsists across all the other traditional grains subsectors. That is the cereals, traditional grains, and so on and so on. We have that grain swap scheme as well as the incentive or the incentivized pricing model for traditional grains as compared to the conventional strategic crops. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, let me just touch on, I know we are discussing crops here. This is the crop subsector, but of course, there is a close relationship between the crop subsector and the livestock subsector. So the livestock subsector is also on a growth, good and positive growth trajectory, and our national head has grown by 2%. And I think since 2020, it has been growing at the rate of 2% per year, or 1 to 2% per year, which is quite, again, incredible. And our national head at the moment, and the national cattle head count is around 5.6 million head count, against 5.5 million recorded in 2021 period. So it's quite some incredible growth, but we can still do more in terms of growing our national head. And mombe tinoziziva kukosha kwadzo, and ndoziva kuti vazhinji tongofunga kuti ndedzekurima chete, but mombe ndedzekuroorana futi. So we need to grow our national head so that we marry more wives. Please do clap hands for me, all the ladies. So, and again, let me just commend my team and also the sector as a whole in terms of some of the other indicators in the livestock subspace. Our cattle mortalities, they went under, and they went under in general by 3% points, from about 8.86% in 2021 to about 6% in 2022, which was quite incredible. And this is thanks and in direct and positive response to government's interventions in terms of the Tigris program, the deep tank rehabilitation program, the Bliss program in terms of intensive dipping and so on and among other initiatives which government, through the livestock recovery and growth plan, promulgated and indeed are operationalizing. So you realize that we are hit by general disease, and it's indeed a big scourge and a big menace, especially in the livestock, in fact, in terms of our national head. So general disease, I think we lost about 500,000 of our national head since 2016, 2017 to date. But we managed to reduce general disease cases and deaths by over 47% in 2020, 2021, and then by over 37% in 2022, which was quite, again, incredible. And this is thanks and in direct response to government's interventions in terms of all those programs which I have highlighted earlier. Tigris program, intensive dipping, promotion of intensive dipping, as well as the deep tank rehabilitation program. And then again, in the dairy subsector, I know there's a very, very close relationship because we launched a program actually in the dairy subspace, which is called the silage or the command silage program, which entails banks, AFC included, CBZ included, supporting commercial dairy farmers with inputs and with facilities for silage production. And we are discussing maize here, and some of the maize and varietal options, they are here on the show. So it paid dividend. Our dairy production is growing quite tremendously and is growing sharply, and it grew by over 15% from 79.6 million liters recorded in 2021 to 91.4 million liters recorded in 2022. And as such, the import substitution agenda and thrust, you realize that milk and milk products and milk powder imports reduced from 8.9 million kgs in 2021 to about 7.4 million kgs in 2022, which is by over 17%. And I think this does deserve a round of applause because it's an incredible, incredible mark. And what is most exciting is you did it. So, we did it. And I want to challenge you to do it again this year. So that's it about our feats, which we have recorded so far year on year from 2021 into 2022 period. It was quite an incredible journey, a challenging one, but we can still do more and we can still do it again, especially this 2023 season. Now, during the briefing, I was challenging Seedco to say we now need, number one, 100% import substitution in terms of seed. 100% import substitution in terms of seed. So we need to promote, I know we are 100% in terms of, 100% import substitution in terms of maize seed, in terms of soya seed. In fact, in terms of soya seed, we are more than 100%, isn't it? Because we do export. And I know we exported maybe over 5,000 metric tons, I think, last year, which was quite incredible. Those are exports, right, at that particular level. So we need to attain and achieve 100% import substitution across the whole seed sector. Be it on traditional grains, I think no, but so I was challenging Seedco and the seed industry in general that we need 100% import substitution in terms of traditional grains seed. It's very scarce. Seed sunflower importer. So we now need to localize and do import substitution at that particular level, at seed security level. And again, I challenged them. Most of the seed, I think, pretty much 60-70% of the vegetable seeds which are on the shelves, on the shore, we import. So we need to localize that particular sub-value chain. And it's very, very important. Because they say the moment you import a container load of seed, you're actually exporting container loads of jobs. You're actually exporting container loads of value. You're actually exporting container loads of the greenback or the foreign currency. So we can't afford to do that as an economy. So we need to look inward. COVID-19 taught us, the geopolitical developments in Eastern Europe taught us to look inward in terms of every other aspect of the agriculture value chain. In terms of, in general, every other aspect of our economy. We need to look inward and we need to green tick import substitution and self-sufficiency, especially in our case in terms of seed and across all the chains. So I was also challenging them to be the seed production hub and for Zimbabwe to be the seed production hub of Africa. We have that potential. We once did that and we can still do it again. So we need to retain that status. So we need to be the food basket of Africa, but all the same we need to be the seed basket of Africa. We can. We did that and we can still do it even in the future. And then, of course, I also challenged them, Seedco, and I know they are working on all these things. We have been discussing the same, but it's also important, but I know they are doing the same. So we challenged them to lead the efforts and the thrust of hybridizing the traditional grains subspace. So at the moment, most of the seeds in the traditional grains family, they are OPVs, and OPVs are technologies of the past. So we need to hybridize that space so that we increase on our productivity levels, we increase on the agronomic efficiencies, we increase on the production and productivity efficiencies of those particular varieties and so on and so on. That's how we can grow the traditional grains space more sustainably, and that's how we can consolidate on the feats which we've achieved so far in terms of successfully promoting the traditional grains production thrust. So we need to hybridize so that we increase our efficiencies, so that we increase our production and productivity efficiencies. Because they say at farmhold level, the best way, obviously, to reduce the cost of production is by increasing our productivity levels. I promise you it's easier said than done, but let's try as farmers to do that. And in fact, that will be the hallmark of transiting from subsistence farming. That will be the hallmark of transforming our agricultural sector, which is indeed the anchor of our overall economy, which is indeed the Vision 2030 accelerator. So we need, obviously, to increase and to work on our productivity levels. We need to line up all the dominoes. We need to partner together, Seedco, and the private sector. We need to partner together so that we line up all the dominoes that cause a shift and that cause a rise, and in fact, sharp rises in terms of productivity levels. But I'm happy that after the implementation of the Fumbuza program, ne? Yes. To know that? Yes. So you So after the rolling out of the Fumbuza program in 2020, we have seen our maize productivity levels increasing from 0.4, 0.5 tons per hectare to about 1.4 tons per hectare. That's about 260 or 280%, which is quite incredible. So the moment we do that, even at farmhold level, then we stand a good chance of reducing the cost of producing a ton. And I always give this example, and I always give it. There are many scenarios and many ways, smart and dirty ways of achieving 20 tons of grain. For example, 20 tons of soya, 20 tons of maize, and so on and so on. You can achieve your 20 tons of maize from 20 hectares at 1 ton per hectare. Is that being smart? It's not. You can achieve your 20 tons still from 10 hectares at 2 tons per hectare. Is that being smart? It's not, certainly. But you can achieve your 20 tons from about 4 hectares at 5 tons per hectare. Yes, maybe we are a little bit getting there. And you can still achieve your 20 tons from 2 hectares, that is at 10 tons per hectare. That's being smart. And that's the only way at farmhold level. That's the only way of reducing the cost of production per hectare. But we also know and are aware that our levels of cost of production, and in fact our cost of production in Zimbabwe as an economy, are generally high, and that's the reason why we are making some interventions. And one of those, maybe you didn't hear it or you didn't see it, but we did that, and that's the reason why you are now seeing the fertilizer pricing dropping quite significantly. In fact, as government, I think last year we promulgated an SI to the effect of exempting a duty for fertilizer raw materials and other nitrogenous fertilizers. So that's the reason why you saw fertilizer, especially nitrogenous fertilizers, dropping from around $70, $75, $85 now to around $50 US. It's because of that fact. We made a waiver, and in fact, we put it under a duty-free regime. That is the nitrogenous fertilizer. This one, I'm not going to, but we just need to clap hands for us. We did very, very well because we are aware that our cost of production are very, very high. And then the other innovation which we did, which we are implementing, is through Vamacheka. That is the AFC group CEO. So we remodeled Agribank to create a one-stop shop of agricultural financial services institutions or services. So we now have the AFC Holdings, which houses about 4 subsidiaries, namely the AFC Land Bank, Land and Development Bank, the AFC Commercial Bank, the AFC Insurance Company, the AFC Agricultural Equipment Leasing Company. All those, they are financial services provision institutions and service providers. And we know and we are aware as government that agriculture is a game of patience, and therefore you would require patient and concessionary financial services to that effect. So we are aware of that, and that's the reason why we now have AFC. And I know, and I'm seeing their loan book in terms of supporting agriculture, in terms of supporting infrastructure development, irrigation infrastructure especially, mechanization infrastructure especially, and so on and so on. It's quite incredible, and they are supporting our farmers. And I think they do deserve another round of applause, because that was one of the key success factors. Innovation in terms of agricultural financing, very, very critical. Then I know most of you are waiting to hear in conclusion, but please hold on. Actually, somebody prepared this speech, and into my speech. You know it, huh? Hello? Yeah, so colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and in conclusion, I know we had some challenges with regards to my wheat payments. So this government in the new dispensation is very honest, is listening and is very honest. So firstly, I would like to empathize with our farmers for the delayed payments, especially the USD component. So what happened, colleagues, without justifying, because we are almost clearing that debt, what happened, colleagues, is we had a plan. And our plan was for the private sector to offtake part of the bumper harvest of the wheat crop. But unfortunately, as GMB and as government, we ended up buying, a bigger proportion of that bumper harvest. And obviously, it put a strain on our resources. We had a plan, and our plan, we had a pass, and in fact, money to be able to buy our portion, to fill the wheat or the newly wheat SGR. But unfortunately, we ended up buying most of the wheat. But unfortunately, and having said that, we still empathize with our farmers, but we managed to pay the Zim dollar component, which was around 37, 38 billion Zim dollars. And we managed to clear, I think, about 24 million US dollars out of the 31 million, which was the US dollar component. And of course, I think you need to clap hands for us because we introduced a pricing policy, which is pretty much like a hybrid pricing policy, whereby the producer prices are now in US dollar, of course, but of course there are proportions, the ZWL proportion, which is about 67%, and then 33% the USD proportion. So all the grains, you now have that 67% Zim dollar, and then 33% US dollar. This one, I mean, otherwise I didn't get pass. Otherwise I didn't. It's very good to be a guest of honor because if I don't sit there, no one will eat. So you need to clap hands for me again, once again. And of course, you need to clap hands for yourselves because you did very, very well. So I know farmers made a request to government and say we need a 40% proportion to be in US dollar, and we say it and we compromised on 33%, which is quite incredible. So even the new price, the new pre-planning producer price for maize is 335, and 67% will be ZWL or Zim dollar, and then 33% will be in US dollar component, because we appreciate that farmers made some presentations to us through the farmer unions, of course, and other farmer associations and other commodities associations, and to the same effect, and we were very, very and positively responsive to that, and we promulgated that policy position of a blend in terms of our payments. So now, let me assure you and update you that we now owe, I think from 14 million US dollars last week, we now owe our farmers about 7 million US dollars in terms of the USD component for wheat deliveries. So I would like to thank you very much, and I would like to urge you and to encourage us to prepare for this oncoming winter season. And our target hectarage this year is 85,000 hectares, which will be a 5,000 hectare rise from the 80,000 hectare mark or record which we achieved in 2022 period. So let us gear for the wheat coming season. Seedco again, let us gear for the oncoming wheat season in terms of seed provision, as well as, and most importantly, in terms of extension provision, because we know that wheat is a highly technical subject and is a highly technical crop, and as such, it would require us to empower and capacitate our farmers with a lot of knowledge. So let us carry out our pre-planting seminars together with government and our extension provision system as government and yourselves, and through that pluralistic extension provision system. And again, let us also gear up for the oncoming summer season as well. And we have set our targets for this year, and they'll be shared publicly very, very soon after cabinet approvals or the necessary cabinet approvals and so on. But otherwise, let us gear for the oncoming summer seasons as well. So, my last words, and in conclusion, I would like to wish you all the very best. And I would like us to did what we did in 2022. We need to did it in 2023, and we need to did it again in the future as we journey towards Vision 2030, agriculturally, that is. And I always call our farmers, you are the agents for agriculture transformation. You are the oil and the engine to power us to Vision 2030 objectives and imperatives. If we get our agriculture right, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, then we'll be able to get everything else right and across the chain as we journey towards a Vision 2030. Colleagues, thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you so much, our award-winning Permanent Secretary. I think he deserves another strong round of applause for that powerful speech, very detailed and clear on the roadmap and path that we are taking as the ministry and as the stakeholders directly involved in dealing with the ministry. Thank you so much, Permanent Secretary, for that. Just to highlight that at Seedco, we are well poised and positioned to give you climate-smart varieties for poverty alleviation and zero hunger, which speaks to SDG number 1 and 2, through the provision of climate-smart varieties, which speaks to SDG number 13, and smart partnerships, which speaks to SDG number 17, while aligning to NSD 1 and NSD 2, which has achieved this target before time and in a bid to achieve Vision 2030. Thank you so much, sir. At this point, allow me to just acknowledge the presence of officials from the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries, Water and Rural Development. May the officials from the ministry just rise. We have directors amongst us from different departments. May you just rise. We'd just like to acknowledge your presence on this auspicious occasion. Those who are sitting in the crowd, please just rise. Our different parastatal heads, different ministry officials. Thank you so much for being a part of us. We also acknowledge the presence of the Seedco Zimbabwe management team. They've come in their numbers. We just acknowledge your presence. We also acknowledge the presence of the Seedco group office officials who have come from different countries. Did you know that Seedco is in over 17 African countries, and we are still spreading our wings because we want to breed, seed, and feed Africa. That's our mandate. Thank you so much for being a part of us. At this point, I would like to invite the Seedco Global Head of Research, Dr. Gordon Mabuyaye, the man behind the executive genetics.
Thank you, Wendy. I know I'm now sitting between you and what we want to see in the fields there. Thank you, guys, the PS, government officials here present, Seedco MD, the Seedco executives, and what I would call here Seedco inventors, popularly known as breeders. They invent things, they create new things. Seedco staff, including rat triangle staff. Then last but not least, if you look at our core values, we have got 6, and I will mention 2. And these 2 relate to the reason why we are here today, which is innovation. We learn and apply every day. Then the second one is about the most important person here today, who is the farmer, customer centricity. We thank you very much for coming here to see what we are doing so that you go and replicate it. I thank you very much.
Tinotenda zvikuru chiremba vedu, tinokutendai zvikuru chiremba vembesa. Baba vanouchika mbeu ivava. Bhasikiti redu riri kuita kupfachukira nembeu. Izvezvi tine mbeu dzekuti kana kusvika 2040 aiwa tinenge takanaka. Tinozvitenda Dr. Mabuyai. Iye zvino taakuchienda kumunda nguva yataakamirira yasvika. Saka tichakumbira isu kuti boka redu rokutanga rinova revakokwa vedu vakuru vari mberi. Tichakumbira maministry officials ari pakati penyu kuti vauye kuno mberi, vamunamati, mamwe madirectors aripo, vamwe vabva kuministry of agriculture, mobatana neboka irori. Tokumbirawo zvakare vabva kuart farm, vamutemeri, nevamwe vabva kuart farm vauyewo zvakare, maparastatal heads, vabatanewo neboka iroro, ndo boka redu rekutanga. Tichavakumbira kuti Dr. Mabuyai, executive breeder vedu, vatungamire boka irori rekutanga. Vachifamba zvavo vachienda, vachibuda mushedhi medu muno, tichaita magroups achange akamira sezvizvi. Tichaisa magroups edu anenge achiti maraini maviri, igrupu rimwe chete, maraini maviri emacheya, vanhu vakagara maraini maviri anotevedzana. Munenge muri mugroup rimwe chete. Saka pachange pane maashers, muri kuona maashers edu akapfeka zvinoonekera, reflective jackets vari panze avo. Ndo anenge vari maashers enyu. Kana morasika munobva mabvunza, mukarasika muri mumunda wechibage kuti kondobuda sei, vanobva vakubatsirai kuti aiwa fambai nepapo. Chiregai ava boka rekutanga richinge rabuda. Vamwe vese ngatirambei takagara mbichana. Tozokupai mapoka enyu. Tinotenda zvikuru. Mrs. Wanda.
Iniwe ndinafarira pamaslogan papa. Yanziye varimi, hanzi nyika inorimwa kubva yazogutisa futi chi, saka varimi vakakosha. So tinongotora izvozvo tuzozi pa tikuenda kwese tiri kuyeuka izvozvo. So tichingomirira vachibva vari kuenda boka redu rekutanga, ndofunga tichatanga kugadzira magroup edu. Tichitangira apa, batira tivangoti fambe shoma, tiwane mukana wekufamba takasununguka. Ngatimeke sure takabudisa tuma notebook. Pane pachitaurwa paya amazita tinozokangana kana tafamba, tichinyora nyora so tichinyora paside. Zvinenge zvichitsanangurwa nevanouchika mbeu, zvamunotarisira zvezviya, muchivhunza mubvunzo ipapo, zvinotibatsira zvikuru kuti patinenge takuramba tichiendera mberi tichivandudza mbeu dzenyu, tichinge tichiadresa maissues enyu.
Tinotenda zvikuru Asivanda. Uyu wandadana uyu mudhumeni zvakare asi anoshanda ari kuMalawi, ari pano nhasi kuzobata pamwe chete nesu. Vakwazise vazive varimi vedu kuti uri pano.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Tinotenda zvikuru. Saka tichakumbira kuti mabreeders edu wanikwai muri panzvimbo, ndapota wanikwai muri panzvimbo mabreeders edu pamastations enyu. Magroups edu saka tichange tichiita kuti tikangoburisa group rimwe chete mobva mapiwa asha wenyu head, asha vedu Cecilia varipo avo vakamira pagoni apo vanobva vakubatsirai.
Wendina nchiyochidza panapa kuti paneka vari kutiona paFacebook platforms edu SR social. Rambai minesu chaenda nemi kuminda tichiramba tichiku-update zviri kuitika kunoko. Munoziva varimi mauya kunoko, kune vamwe vakawanda vasara kunze uko asi vari kutiona pamasaisa eFacebook, paYouTube pese nepaTwitter.
Aichokwadi masaisai akanaka, sinozvitenda zvikuru. Group rino, raini rino riri mberi nerinotevera. Ndiri kuona pane mabhilo, aiwa ava vari serious, front benchers. Simukai zvenyu maraini maviri ari mberi. Ndoona mai vangu varipo pakati pevamwe ipapo nebhuku ravo iri. Handinyepi vanaro bhuku ravo iri. Saka budai zvenyu makadai.